Hey cousin, welcome to CoCo Conjure. Here we talk about all things hoodoo, folklore, magic, wellness, and spiritual journeys. My goal, as always, is to provide a foundation for the novice and inspiration to the advanced practitioner. If you have not guessed already, my name is CoCo. Cousin, I am so blessed that you have found me. Please subscribe or follow the podcast wherever you are listening. And be sure to leave a like or a 5-star review. I promise I will earn it. For this episode, I thought we'd talk about color in hoodoo, specifically how it relates to candle work, or if you're traditional, how it relates to setting up your lights and setting your table. This has been a very difficult topic for me. I explained in the episode Internet Witches Got Questions that I decided a while ago that the color of my candle in my candle work is not a driving force in my practice. Now, cousin, you know I sit on the fringe. I'm on the edges, right? So just because it's not a driving force for me, that does not mean it's not a driving force or principle in your practice. And before we dive in, I just have to say, I'm going to give you like 5 different correspondence lists or 5 different ways color is used. And as much as it doesn't seem like it, the topic of color is so complex. There was more I could have added. I could have looked at Solomonic magic. I could have looked at, general witchery. I could have looked at Kabbalah, but I tried to keep it just toward folk magic or just to hoodoo. But it's complicated. It's very complicated. So I'm going to make sure that in the show notes, I leave all of my sources. I'm going to make sure that I credit anyone who has inspired, or I'm telling you their correspondence list. And I'm going to encourage you that the first time you listen to this, and you're listening to it all the way through, maybe if you're doing this for study purposes, don't write down anything right away. Just wait. Wait until you hear all of it and then go to the sources and click which correspondence list might be right for you, or, go through and jot down, what colors make sense to you. Okay. So without any further ado, let's dive into the color of candles and the power held therein. So why is color important? What can color do for us as we work? When speaking to his informants and compiling a list of color and meaning in the compendium Hoodoo, Conjuration, Witchcraft, and Rootwork, Hyatt says the following. The 2 fundamental aspects of candles in hoodoo are color and power. Color value comes from 3 sources. 1, a psychology as old as history. Black equals darkness and evil. Red equals blood and danger. White equals light and goodness. 2, the saint's color, meaning the predominant color in the saint's costume or picture or statue. And 3 is the hoodoo dealer. Whatever the hoodoo says the color is good for, the color is good for. Power we can understand if we remember that a candle is a magical helper or a hand. The magic helper, of course, being a spirit. So as we navigate this topic of color and candle work, I want you to keep this in mind. Color use comes down to cultural or psychological meanings. It comes from how we depict divine sources. And it's also the hoodoo's choice based on their spirit, based on what the foundations of their practice is and how they work the color and how they've gotten results from using that color. Okay, let's get to color correspondences. Child, cousin, there are 800 books on hoodoo. There's 800 books on hoodoo on the market. And in each of them, they have a color correspondence list. A lot of them are more modern, and some of them are written by AI or written by those not in the hoodoo space. So you got to be careful about that. You have to look up the author. You have to see, how long they've been in the community, how they got into the community. That's why when I started my podcast, my very first episode talks about how I got into hoodoo. So I don't misrepresent myself, because I'm telling you, out of 800 books, 700 people, 700 authors will misrepresent themselves in the hoodoo space. Just letting you know. But I digress. Y'all know me, I'm a reader, okay? I like my sources to be a mix of those currently in the space, living in the practice, as well as written accounts from our ancestors within academic study. And in my research, I thought it would be a good idea to composite this list of color and meaning using modern and traditional resources. Let's start with the modern ones. So, say you're new to hoodoo and you go to Google and you type in hoodoo colors, or colors used for hoodoo candles, or what color to use for love spells. The first person you're going to come across is Hoodoo Delish. So Miss Avi at Hoodoo Delish has been around for like 8+ years on YouTube, and her graphics come up first on Pinterest when you search anything hoodoo related. She's a white lady. I'm not sure if she grew up in the hoodoo space or within Black culture, but she's made tons of money off of it. And I mean, the argument can be made that she's a prominent figure in the modern sphere of hoodoo. Her hoodoo style of glitter and herb usage and candle work is all over the online space, and a lot of folks' first glimpse of hoodoo is her practice. She's gotten millions of followers and tons of people saying her hoodoo works. So since her graphics are the first one you may come across, let's see what she says about color. So on this graphic titled Hoodoo Basics Color Magic, Hoodoo Delish says, meanings of color when added to spell work: use color in candles, inks, petition papers, flowers, string, altar decoration, etc. to add its power to a spell. First is white. White is used for cleansing, uncrossing, healing. Great for cut and clear, cleansing work, and all healing spells. Next is red. Red is used for power, lust, passion, anger. Great for sex, love, and hot footwork. Then we go to pink. Pink is for love, forgiveness, fertility, friendship. Great for love return, sweet jars, womb opening, and friendship work. Then there's orange, which is good for strength, endurance, growth. Great for road opening and self-love. Then we have yellow. Yellow is good for truth, luck, and success. Great for truth spells, lucky charms, and crown of success work. Then there's green, which is used for money, prosperity, corruption. Great for money work and decaying curses. Then there's blue. Blue, she says, is used for healing, intuition, communication. Great for call me work, psychic gift work, and spiritual healing. Then we move to purple, which she says is used for domination, control, spiritual gifts. Great for binding and spiritual power. Then we move to black. Black is used for cursing, protection, hiding. Great for sour jars, breakup work, heavy protection, and invisibility work. All right, so there is Hoodoo Delish's color correspondence chart. Okay, so let's compare Hoodoo Delish to another modern practitioner. This practitioner you may have come across while moving about online. This is Alemi from Yeyeo Botanica. Alemi comes from the Orisha tradition, hence the name Yeyeo Botanica. And she also practices Buddhism, she says. She runs a Botanica out of New Jersey, and you can also go to her online store. And she is pretty prominent in her spiritual community. As a newcomer trying to navigate what a modern practice looks like while reconciling it with what grandma was talking about and what the academics said, I found Alemi to be authentic. I thought she was a great jumping off point when it came to researching topics and when it came to general knowledge and information. She has a free color chart on her Botanica website, and she has a video on her channel that explains more in detail what each color is used for in her work. And I think it's also important to remember that because Alemi is from an Orisha tradition, these colors also have connection to her religious faiths and beliefs. I'm not going to go into full detail like she did in her video. I think it's better if you just go listen to her. But here are the basics of what she said each color is used for. Okay, so Alemi's color chart says white is for purity, calmness. It's a catch-all color because it reflects all colors. It's also to be used on the ancestor altar, and it's also a representation of Obatala. Then we have yellow, which is tied to the sun and illumination. So she says it's good for communication or court cases, as well as the color of Oshun. Then we have orange, she says, is the color of success. Then there's gold, which is also a color of success, but also deals with opulence and money. She moves on to green, which is about growth, open roads, getting things started, and, cash, money. Then she moves on to blue, she says is used for matters in the home. Red, Alemi says, is the color of action, a color of passion and sex. And she also ties this to Shango and Alegba. Pink is the color of love, friendship, sweetness, and for attraction work, all attraction work, whether that's love attraction, money attraction, it's for attraction. She says that gray, which we didn't see before in Hoodoo Delish's color chart, but she says gray is the color of unblocking a situation. Then she moves to purple, which she says is about royalty and position. It's about victory. She connects this color to Hajan the Conqueror, as well as to Oya and the ancestors as well. And then lastly, she says black. Black is a color of absorption. It's a color of breakthrough, a color of domination, a color of hexing, as well as hex breaking. That was Alemi's color chart. So if you're keeping score, you'll see that not all these colors line up between these two practitioners. So let's apply Hyatt's theory of color and hoodoo for a second. Both Alemi and Hoodoo Delish use white to bring about good things. AV is for cleansing and uncrossing, and Alemi uses white for purity and calmness. That checks because socially we see white as a purity thing. We think baptismal robes or fresh fallen snow. And, if there's a light around, if there's, white light around, we can see what's in front of us. We know that there's no danger around us because everything's illuminated. On the other side of that coin, both use black for darker aspects of the work, like hexing or hex breaking or domination. Which again still checks because we know that, the creepy crawlies, the things in the dark, the scary things in the dark are what's going to get us. So evolutionarily, we all think black or darkness as, for the seedier things, right? And then both use red for passion and power and sex. And that makes sense. What do you say when you're angry? I'm seeing red. Red is a power color. When we think about sex and we think about sexiness and sultriness, usually think about, a lady in a red dress. That checks, right? All of those things are what we think of culturally, what color has been linked to us across the ages, as it were. But there is some divergence, right? For example, AV, Hoodoo Delish, uses orange for open road work. And that usage is normal among modern day general occultists or modern day general witchy practitioners. So Ivy the Occultist, for example, who I enjoy, again, very authentic person. She doesn't claim to be something she's not. On her channel, she's a chaos magician, and among other things. And she talks about how she uses orange in her open road work, right? So it's not orange as open road work is not out of the norm. Alemi acknowledges orange as a color for success, but she uses green for her open road work. Jessica Winston at House of Hoodoo, who is a Mambo, a voodoo practitioner in New Orleans, she sells green open road candles on her website and in her Botanica, right? So which one is right, right? Which color is best for open road work? Is it the orange or is it the green? Well, Both are right. Both are right. Like Hyatt said, there's dealer's choice. All 4 practitioners, Hoodoo Delish, Ivy the Occultist, Alemi of Yeyeo Botanica, Jessica from House of Hoodoo, they all have their reasons why they use what they use. And they wouldn't use it if they didn't find success in the working. And if you go to Amazon or you go to a Botanica and you want to buy a candle that's actually manufactured for road opening work with the printed road opening prayer on the back and it says Abre Camino on the front, you'll find that the candle color is just green or just orange, or it's green and orange. Right? Like it's both sometimes. So what does this tell us about modern day color usage for candles? Some tropes are rooted in psychology: black for bad, white for good, red for passion, etc., and so forth. Some tropes are rooted in culture and tradition. Like, let's take a second here and say the quiet part out loud. To initiates into ADRs, that's African derived religions, Orisha traditions, and voodoo, right? Lemmy and Jessica, they use green for their road open work. Meanwhile, 2 practitioners not initiated into ADRs use orange for their road opening work, which again is typical among the magical community in general across traditions. So, dealer's choice depends on tradition. The only way you're wrong is if it's against the tradition you practice, if you're following it strictly, or it's like never been used for that ever, right? Like if I wouldn't use black for road opening work because that's not across any tradition in any space, that's not what black is used for. You know what I mean? So it's broad enough that you can choose your color when you do your work, like you have choices, but it's also specific enough that there are certain colors for a fact you'll never choose ever, as it were. Or I should say, you'll never choose for a specific type of working, as it were. Okay, so let's bring in some old school practitioners, starting with that tome of Hoodoo, Rootwork, and Conjuration by Hyatt. Hyatt's informant tells him some pretty complicated and complex candle work. It's not that the candle work itself is complex, but tracing what it's used for is a little difficult. And he does give instruction on each candle and why it's used that way. It's too much to go into for this podcast, but it boils down to this list of color correspondences. The informant tells Hyatt that blue is for success. White candles are for prosperity, purity, luck, peace, and happiness in the home. Can be used for money and business success, and it can help your petition come to fruition a little faster. Green is used for money, but the informant also says that green can make work happen faster than a white candle, and it's also used for spirituality and for physical healing. Red is used for victory and overcoming obstacles. It represents blood, and you use red to cause fussing and confusion in relationships. And also it's used for love. Black is the color of death. That's it. Black is the color of death, period. Pink is for good luck. Yellow is for affection in the home. And brown is to recover something lost. And the informant connects the color brown to Saint Anthony. So that's in this huge tome. That's what color correspondences are said in Hoodoo, Conjuration, and Rootwork by Hyatt. Okay, let's compare, right? Hyatt's informant uses blue for success in all things. And That's it, right? Hoodoo Delish uses yellow for success, probably because in Crown of Success work you use calendula, and calendula is a yellow flower. So, okay, fine. Alemi uses orange for success, which again, if you look at anyone else's correspondence list, most people are going to tell you that orange is for success and creativity. Hyatt's informant uses red for victory. Alemi uses purple for victory. Hoodoo Delish doesn't even mention victory. Just, doesn't mention it at all. So it feels a little more dealer's choice. And also the colors from our modern practitioners seem a little closer to what we think of culturally, right? Where this old school practitioner talking to Hyatt in his book, some of it is a little tradition, but for the most part, it's things I would have never thought of. I would have never thought to use brown to recover something lost, but I guess I'm not Catholic, so there's that reason why. I would have never used green for spiritual healing. That would have never come to me at all. I would have never used white for business success. Most modern practitioners would tell you if you want business success, use, you could use white as a catch-all color, but if you want to use a color, you would use green or gold or orange or red, right? I don't think most people are going straight for white. You understand what I mean? They'll say white because everything can be white, but specifically for business success, they would choose another color, right? One thing that all three practitioners have in common, though, is that same trope of white for good, black for bad, red for passion, right? So let's add one more layer. We're going to add Zora Neale Hurston to the mix. In the book Mules and Men, Zora Neale Hurston lists in the back the following color usages. Okay, so Zora's list is the following. White is used for peace and uncrossing and weddings. Red is used for victory. Pink for love and drawing success. Green is to drive away and also to bring success. Blue is for success and to cause death. Yellow is for money. Brown is for drawing money and people. Lavender is to induce triumph or cause harm. And black is for death. Period. Okay. So again, with this motif of white for good, black for bad, that's still at play. But the rest of the list, y'all, no four practitioners can agree on what color does what for what situation. We can make some inferences. For example, Zora says yellow is for money. Maybe in Zora's day, they didn't have access to gold candles like Alemi does. So if we say yellow is a placeholder for gold, sure, yellow is for money. That matches up. When it comes to relationships, all four practitioners mention pink or red, but what it does in the relationship is debatable, right? Is it causing lust? Is it causing confusion? Is it causing passion? Is it for sex? Up in the air, truly. This whole thing is downright confusing. Color in Hoodoo is confusing. So how do we navigate the world of color in Hoodoo? We go back to what Hyatt said. It's a mix of culture, psychology, black bad, white good, red passion, right? It's a mix of religion and faith, yellow for Oshun, brown for St. Anthony. And mostly it's a whole lot of dealer's choice. A whole lot of dealer's choice. So if I was going to choose between these four, right, which list I would use for my color correspondences, if I'm brand new, I would pick the ones that I feel are most authentic, pick the ones I feel are most true to Hoodoo. So, no tea, no shade. I would not choose Hoodoo Delish. I don't know where she came from. I don't know where she learned this. I don't have an understanding of where her tradition is stemming from. And I'm saying this as someone who does not strictly adhere to tradition, but like I don't get her, right? So I see her color list and it looks like the color list of any witch, no matter their tradition. So I'm not saying I would count it out. I'm just saying it's not a priority, right? Alemi, for example, we know she's into Orisha tradition. We know that she's prominent in her community. We know that she's been doing, conjure, Hoodoo style rootwork, conjure, Orisha stuff for a long time. She's not new to the game. Even before she got online, this was her life, right? So I'm probably going to lean closer to her color correspondence list. Even if later on, me as the hoodoo dealer, I choose a different color, her Alemi's list is a good jumping off point. If you want to be more traditional and you're working without a mentor, you're working before you can find a mentor, then you might lean towards Zora or Hurston, or you might lean towards Hyatt's informant, because these are these are practices done by our ancestors, written down in academic text. You know for a fact that in New Orleans around Zora Hurston's time, in Florida around Zora Hurston's time, they were using yellow for money. You know for a fact that Hyatt and those who he interviewed in Mississippi and New Orleans and wherever, they were using black for death. They were using, red for victory and overcoming obstacles. Like, that's as traditional as you can get without mentorship. So again, it comes down to dealer's choice most of the time. And it comes down to how you want to practice. Maybe someone out there is like, girl, I love Hoodoo Delish. You talking about her? You being real shady towards Hoodoo Delish? I love her. Okay, I get it. If it works for you, it works for you. Okay, cool. But if again, it really comes down to how you want to practice, how traditional or modern you want to be. And, if you want it to be in that sweet spot, like a Lemmy, where it's that sweet spot between modern and traditional. If you want to go new age, very modern, most witches use those color correspondences like Hoodoo Delish, or if you want to be traditional or as close as traditional as you can be without a mentor, like Zora or Hurston and Hyatt's informant. Okay, so I done said all of that, but there's still another layer to this. 4 years ago, Catalia, the Hoodoo Queen, on YouTube and Instagram, she gave a list of colors for candle work. In the video, she says the color is just to guide the mind towards the intention of the work. Intention is not everything, but you can use the color to keep yourself as a practitioner on task. And if you watch any of her more modern videos, she uses white candles almost exclusively for going color and focusing instead on how the candle is dressed. What conditioned oils do you use on the candle? What spirits are you trying to reach? What kind of ashe or spiritual power is in use? She teaches that the candle, how the candle is fixed, is more important than the color. Now, I'm in agreement with Catalia, the Hoodoo Queen. I use color to keep me on task or to represent the spirits that I'm petitioning. It's a shorthand, basically. But I don't need color to do my work. If you handed me, a white 7-day, if you handed me a birthday candle, if you handed me a tea light, I can get the work done, because the color is not the focal point in my practice. It's a shorthand. It's a way for me to stay on task of what I'm trying to do. But instead, it's the flame, the spirit of the flame, that's carrying out the work, the wax as an offering, as it were. So yeah, I focus on the conditioned oils that I have handcrafted. I focus on the spirits the herbal spirits that I grew from a seed, and I focus on petitioning the spirits that are guiding forces in my life. So all of that said, If I was going to use color, like if I'm using my color as a shorthand and I'm deciding to use that shorthand in my practice, here is my color correspondence list. Here is CoCo's color correspondences. So I use the color white to draw things to me. And it represents the spirit of life. It represents the ancestors. It represents blessing. I use the color black to push things away from me or to create change. It represents the spirit of death and transformation. I use red to overcome obstacles. It's a color of action, a color of moving forward. I almost never use red by itself. If I'm going to use red candles, I usually pair it with another color. I use green and blue for growth and creation. These colors, those two colors represent the spirit of the muse to me. It represents, creativity and my creative endeavors. I am growing. I am birthing my creations. I use yellow or gold to represent wealth and prosperity in all material things. So yellow and gold, or also, if I was going to be honest, gray and silver, represent the spirit of wealth in my life. Purple represents me, represents my spiritual power. For no other reason than purple is my favorite color. So again, if I was going to use color as a shorthand, those are how I would use color. But if I were to open up, the drawer on my altar right now, the amount of color I have in there is dwindling. It's mostly just white in there. But again, authenticity, being honest with you all, the only time I use color for shorthand is if I am petitioning that spirit. Notice how in my color correspondence list, I gave you a spirit of human condition, right? I gave you, the spirit of wealth. I gave you the spirit of the muse. I gave you the spirit of death and transformation. I talked about the ancestors and the spirit of life. Like, that's how I use color. I use it to connect my mind to whatever spirit I'm trying to petition. And whatever oil I'm using, or whatever herbal allies I'm using, whatever curios I'm using, also are in alignment with that. In alignment with that spirit. Pink is not on there. I guess you could use pink for love and health, but I gotta be honest with you, the spirit of life is the spirit of health to me, and in my life, I'm not worried about finding a lover, like a long-term lover. So I guess that's why pink never came up for me. But yeah, that's my correspondence list. That's CoCo's color correspondences. So taking all those lists of colors into consideration, it's easy to see how something as simple as color can really trip up a practitioner. There's so much more to consider when you decide to add color into your working. My advice, if you are building your work from scratch, pick a list that aligns with how you would like to practice. If you are a little more witchy, a little more occultist, a little less traditional, go for Hoodoo Delish, sure. If you toe that line, a Lemmy from Yeyeo Botanica's list is great. If you're traditional, Hyatt, Zora, Hurston, great lists to work from until you find a mentor at least. If you're like me and you're non-theistic and you just want to use color to keep your mind on track, to keep you thinking about the spirits you're petitioning, why you're petitioning them, use it as a shorthand for how you decide to dress your table, dress your altar, then you can use my list or you can make one on your own based on, the different sources that I provided or any other source you may come across. I think that's also fair. Remember, hoodoo colors are also about dealer's choice. Um, over time, you will build your own style. It may be dictated by your faith. It may be dictated by your mentor. It may be dictated by trial and error, which you've worked, which you don't work. But over time, you will build your own style. And when you build your own style, picking the color you want to use for your work will not be that complicated. I promise. Okay, so we've made it to the question and answers portion of this podcast. If you've been here before, you know what's coming next. If you've never been here before, I'm going to explain it to you. So in this portion, I take a question found on Facebook or Reddit or wherever, and I read it and I try to answer it. They usually are questions that I have skimmed before, questions I think that I can answer, but this is not scripted. I haven't thought about this too much beforehand. This is off the dome right here, right now. Okay? So let's get into the first one. So the first question comes from Facebook. It says, would it be a good idea to burn both of these candles at the same time to win a court case? So the candles in the photo, the first one is John the Conqueror, purple. It's a purple candle. It has it's manufactured, so it has a photo representation of John as a king and all of these hands reaching toward him. And then the second candle says Just Judge, also a manufactured 7-day candle. It's white. It has blue lettering, a photo of Jesus Christ on the cross, and the spear that was in his side and all this other stuff. So you've got a John manufactured candle and you have a Justice manufactured candle. Would it be a good idea to burn both of these at the same time to win a court case? Yeah, you could. I've never used these kind of candles before. When I go to the Botanica, or lately when I've been pouring my own candles, I prefer to just be blank. Just blank. So that way I can write my petition on the candle, write my personal petition on the candle, or put my photo on the glass of the candle, etc. and so forth. But yeah, I don't see why not. Traditionally speaking, John is used to overcome obstacles, to have victory in something, to be freed from something. It's on my episode list to do an episode about John. Usually in court cases, you use chewing John, which is how do I pronounce this? Galang-a-lang. I think I pronounced that right, but it's a type of ginger, and you chew it. Dr. Buzzard was known for doing that in courtrooms. He would chew on the root, chewing John. The justice candle, I mean, that's obvious. That's obvious court case work to get justice for what you want. So even if the person did wrong and you are guilty, if you're found guilty, at least, the sentencing won't be severe. It'll be fair, right? So a justice candle is all about fairness and attracting that to you and to whoever your client is or whatever. So yeah, I think you can use both of those candles. I wouldn't necessarily use the John candle, but I see where you're going with that. The thing is, though, is that these are manufactured candles. These are coming from China that, poured, and someone printed the photo on the front, right? So this is about that whole commercialization of hoodoo practices that I was talking about. That candle in and of itself, with the photo of John on the front, with Jesus Christ on the front, has not been worked over. Okay. So you still, even though you bought that candle, those two candles, you still have to work over it. You still have to do conjure with it. You still have to anoint them. You still have to do the prayer. You still have to do the petition. Like, it's not enough to just light the candle. Okay. So yes, you can use them, but know that that they're just a tool, and the conjure, the magic, has to come from you, not just the candle. Okay, so second question, also off of Facebook. Wonderful. How do y'all cleanse your candles if you don't have access to Florida water or Rue water? I have Dragon's Blood incense and John the Conqueror incense. Okay, this is interesting. And again, it puts me on the fringe. I don't worry about energetically cleansing my candle. Like, when I do go to the Botanica and I buy a candle, I'm not worried about energetic cleansing. There's many reasons for that. You'll find people all over the internet talking about, oh, well, they touched it and their negativity transferred and all that. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just saying that the Botanica that I frequent, there's two of them. The Botanicas that I would frequent, like, they have a general atmosphere of calm, peace, clarity. So even if someone walked in and touched that thing before me, the vibe check says that it didn't stay. Right? Like the proprietors of those spaces make sure that their space is cleansed and that the things in that space are also cleansed. So that's not something I worry about. Now, I do clean like my candles, like mundanely. And when I do that, I will use my Florida water spray that I make. Rue water is great, although I don't use Rue water. But I'll use like just simple water, like a water in a rag, or some sort of spirit like a whiskey, or a light spirit like a vodka, like actual drinking spirits. Or rubbing alcohol, I'll just take that and wipe it down so that way it's not dirty, because I want the things on my altar space to be clean, not just clear but also clean. So if I was going to be in the headspace of this person, and you say you are worried about who touched your stuff and how you cleanse an item, and you only had Dragon's Blood incense or John the Conqueror incense, you would use Dragon's Blood incense. Dragon's Blood comes from I think I'm pronouncing this right, the Draconia tree. Like, it's a resin from a tree. And it's considered a holy resin. Not necessarily like Palo Santo wood or frankincense and myrrh resins, but Dragon's Blood is considered, a holier resin. It's used for ritual practice. It's used for ritual cleansing. So you would use the Dragon's Blood incense. That said, going back to what I originally said, which is, why are you buying stuff from a place? Like, if you're going into the Botanica, into the whatever, why are you going in there and then worrying about cleansing the stuff afterward? The space should be clear. It should be clear. The more that I think about it, I guess, what if you don't have access to a Botanica, I guess is the answer to my question, right? Like, what if you don't have access to a Botanica and you're getting your candles from the Dollar Tree or from the Walmart or from the Target? Because there's plenty of places out here nowadays that have spiritual sections, and you don't have to buy candles in the glass container. Like, they don't have to be the 7-day candles you might see in the Mexican grocery store, right? You can get a pillar candle from Walmart. You can get a pillar candle from Target. So I guess that's why you would want to energetically cleanse them. And that's fair. So yeah, if you only had those options, Hajan or Dragon's Blood, you would use the Dragon's Blood. But honestly, 2 birds, 1 stone. Get some water, get a glass of water, maybe add a little salt to it, say a prayer over it, get a rag, and just wipe it. Just wipe it down. That way it's clean and clear. Okay. All right. We have made it to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, cousin. If you've made it to the end and you're still here with me, I appreciate you listening and being here with me today. This was a interesting one. Again, a long time in the making for me. It's a topic that I wanted to tackle, and it's just so much. Like, I might come back to it later and we can talk about Solomonic magic, Kabbalah, that kind of stuff, and color uses in that, because oddly enough, you see those color uses come up in Hoodoo. Layla Ahari, who is a multi-millionaire, she calls herself a Hoodoo witch, I believe. She pours her own candles, she makes oils, she makes body butters, all this crazy good stuff. Very expensive. And again, I won't partake just because I'm trying to uncommercialize my practice, but I understand why others would partake. She has a reputation of having work that works, like her work works, right? That's her reputation. She uses the glitter and she uses different colors. And lately, when she revamped her website, she put Solomonic seals on the candles, and they'll say like the 7th key of Saturn and things like that. So Solomonic magic, Kabbalah, and color uses and seals do have some influence in Hoodoo. She's not the only one, is what I'm saying. So, maybe another time I'll talk about that. But for right now, we're going to wrap this up. So if you haven't done so already, please leave a like, leave a comment, please subscribe or follow wherever you are. I hope I earned that 5-star rating you probably left at the beginning. Before we go, I just want to let you know, cousin, you deserve the world. And no matter how you decide to incorporate color and candles into your practice, I know that you will make the best choice for you. Remember, you don't have to explain your practice to other people. You don't have to defend your practice to other people. You use the inspiration that gets you to where you gotta go. As long as you are authentic to yourself and as long as you are honest and true, it's gonna work out for you. And if you call for your blessings, they will come to you. I'll see you guys next time.